Well, hello, my dear friends. Welcome back. Okay, so we were getting into the weeds, and I want to continue from where we left off last time because we are struggling with these missing values. Okay, so we're going to get right to it without taking up any more time. You remember where we were. So first of all, I want to drop the deck variable from the data set. However, I want to analyze the values before dropping them from the data set. Now, I didn't refresh the ChatGPT page. I want to just continue with this. So in this context, I'll just come over here into the message section, and I'll write something like, I want to visually analyze the values of the deck variable in the data set. Can you write the required code? And we'll send that message. And yeah, we're getting some answers. Let's wait for it to finish. All right, so now let's have a look. Okay, so ChatGPT says that we can make use of the count plot while achieving this goal, and the codes are below. All right, so see here again, assuming that the variables we want in the data set are there, it did not load. So it wrote the visualization codes directly, and here it's making use of matplotlib and Seaborn library. So first, it determined the framework of the visualization, then it used the count plot function. And here it gives a deck variable that we set for the x-axis of the image. Then it would set the axis and title frames. And finally, it completes visualization by saying plot.show, right? And below, it explains the codes. And of course, if you want to, you can pause the video and read it for yourself. But since I'm explaining it to you, I just want to get through this part a little bit quicker. Okay, so now let's transfer the codes over here to the notebook. So look, guys, I'm going to take the relevant part of the code from the left side and just copy and then paste it over here onto the right. And we can run the code from here. And as you can see, the image is, well, quite spectacular, I would say. So I can analyze this image, but I want to get ChatGPT to do it. So what I'll do is send it a message again. Now, my friends, once back in the message section, if we directly tell ChatGPT to analyze the output of the above code, guess what? Well, we're going to have a mistake because ChatGPT assumes that the data set was ready when writing these codes, so it didn't install it into its system. So, for example, it just wrote the visualization codes here, but it needs to recognize the data set fully. So what we do is, well, we got to specify the situation appropriately when sending our messages, right? So in this context, I'll just write in the message section again, something like, I want to analyze the output of the above code. So first, load the Titanic data set from the Seaborn library and apply the above code to the data set. Can you analyze the code output according to the result? That seems to be more clear, don't you think? So let's send it and see what happens. And we're getting some answers, so we've got to wait for it to end. And now we can move on to our analysis. Okay, so ChatGPT is warning us here. It says that the Titanic dataset is not directly available in the Seaborn library. It says it can be loaded using the Pandas library via the CSV file. But yeah, of course, we're going to ignore this warning because we can load the dataset with the load dataset function. The Titanic dataset is now a built-in dataset of the Seaborn library. But I wonder, have you already noticed it wrote the code below again according to our request? And it says it was modified code. So if we examine it further, you see, my friends, it first uploaded the dataset and then applied the same code above. So yeah, this is something that we want because now there is a dataset in ChatGPT memory Now it can perform that analysis that we want to do earlier. All right, so we'll examine the information below. We'll check it out. ChatGPT first says what the bars in the image mean. Okay, the count plot displays the count of values in the deck variable. Each bar in the plot represents a unique deck value, and the height of the bar indicates the frequency of that value in the data set. Yeah. So it then performs the analysis of the graph. So first it says the deck variable contains several categories represented by the letters A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. These letters correspond to different decks on the Titanic. Very cool. So now it's going to evaluate these by letters. Now, there's an important note here. Most passengers in the data set do not have a specific deck assignment, so missing values or nans. This is indicated by the tallest bar in the plot. Now, it clearly points out that this variable has missing values, and it says that we should consider this when evaluating. Thank you very much. And finally, ChatGPT summarizes the graph as follows. The most common deck among the passengers with a specified value is deck C, followed by deck B, deck D, and deck E. So, my friends, I wonder if you were thinking, hey, this was a univariate analysis, right? Yes, you're correct. So we'll be able to see more comprehensive evaluations by analyzing the target variable. Correct as well. So now what we're going to do is transfer the relevant parts of the notes here into the notebook. So I'm taking it all from here. I'll open up a markdown cell over on the right and paste all that I copied into it. And here I'm just adding an asterisk to make the note look nicer, and I'm going to run the code. Great. So as you can see, it's taken a most excellent shape. Now, my friends, I want to take our analysis further. I want to examine the relationship of the deck variable with a survived variable, which is a target variable, right? So within this context, I'll just come over here to the message section and write something like this. Now I want to examine the deck variable relative to the target variable that survived. Can you write the required code and then analyze it? So check it out. I want it to do the analysis in a single message this time. And I'll send it, and look at this. The answers start to come up, and okay, we'll wait for it to finish. Okay, good. So we can now start the analysis. And first thing I notice is ChatGPT says we could do this with catplot. And it's printed the necessary code for this below. So it first assumes that the data set was loaded again. So it will print only the codes that we want. Now, this is okay, right? We didn't refresh the ChatGPT page. And if you remember, we introduced a data set to ChatGPT in our previous work. So now it will perform the analysis by looking into its memory. All right, so now let's examine the codes. Oh, you see, my friends, first drew the name of the data set. Then it used a cat plot graphic and set the X parameter as a deck. And yeah, my friends, it adds a third dimension to show the relationship of this variable to the target variable. And it sets the hue parameter to the survived variable. I like it. And then finally, it sets a type of the visual graphic as count, because these two variables have a categorical structure. Yeah, so see, it determines the axis and title names right here below, and then it finishes the visualization by saying plot.show. Okay, so why don't we draw this graph first, and then we can move on to the analysis. So what I'll do is I'll take the relevant part of the code from here on the left and paste it into the cell on the right. Let's run the code. And look at this, we get a very clear graphical representation. There's a deck variable on the x-axis and the number of values in the variable on the y-axis. And the coloring in the graphic is made according to the survived variable. And the blue ones are those who lost their lives after the shipwreck, the orange ones, and even those who remained. Yeah, so now we can get the analysis from ChatGPT according to this chart. So we see all the comments just below the chart. And yeah, my friends, we've commented on this part so far. It explains how to draw the graph, the meaning of the codes, shape of the graph. The part that interests us, though, is at the bottom. And yeah, we can see the evaluation of the graph here. Let's just have a look, see what it says. So if we look at the first item, decks A, B, and C have a higher proportion of passengers who survived compared to those who did not survive. And this indicates a potential correlation between these decks and survival. Interesting. So yeah, now let's focus on the second item. And my friends, decks D and E also show a higher proportion of survivors, but not as pronounced as the earlier decks. And the third item, okay, so decks F and G have a higher proportion of passengers who did not survive, indicating a potential correlation between these decks and a lower chance of survival. And finally, it says the majority of passengers without a specified deck value, NaN, have a lower chance of survival. So, my friends, at the bottom, it explains the purpose of this chart. So now we can transfer the information from here to the notebook. So I'll take this part of the code and open a cell in Markdown format on the right and paste everything into it. Now, before running the code, I do want to put an asterisk for the item titles. All right, so we can go ahead and run the code. All right, my friends, so we'll take our notes about the deck variable. Yeah, so we'll only do a visual analysis with this variable. And like I was saying in the beginning, we'll drop the missing values from the data set. And yeah, we're going to get to that part of the process next time. So let's wrap it up here, and I'll see you in the next video.